All right, all right. Welcome to another episode of the Lilac City Leadership Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, James Krejci,
And I'm the other host, Doyle Wheeler.
and we're here on just off of Trent Avenue, out towards the valley, at the offices of GoJoe, and we're sitting down with an awesome guest this morning, Harry Sladich. Hopefully, I said that correct.
You did indeed.
Owner and Chief Development Officer here at GoJoe Patrol. So, Harry, super excited to have you on the show.
Thanks.
And excited to hear more of the story. So with that, I think maybe take us through some of your personal career journey and what brought you eventually to GoJoe.
Yes, and thanks for your interest in us in the company. I was basically was raised in Spokane, so I was born in Anaconda, Montana, and my father, thank God, took a job at Gonzaga University and moved us here when I was one. So,
Wow.
so I've got Montana roots, but my father, and he worked there for 47 years. So
Wow.
we were the only ones that actually moved out of the area in Montana. So grew up here, grew up in the South Hill by Cannon Hill. Went to Catholic schools and graduated from Gonzaga Prep. And my business partner here, he and I have gone to school together since second grade. So I met him at St. Aloysius and Major Bambino, and that is his real name. They think it's his rank because he was in the State Patrol.
Oh,
but that's
yeah.
his real name.
So he was fit for the job.
He was
then.
fit for the job, but I in high school I was working in it was called the Travelodge River Inn, which is it's now at the Ruby River Inn, but it became Red Lion River Inn, and I started there while I worked in high school. Well, I was in high school, and that was the first and only job I was ever fired from.
Congratulations.
Thank you. The banquet manager and I just didn't see eye to eye, and so I left that establishment, walked across the street, and it was then called the Sheraton. The DoubleTree used to be called the Sheraton. And I walked in. I said, "Look, I just got fired. I'd like to." And they said, "Oh, we hate that guy," and so they hired me. So I started to work there and started to go up through the ranks. And I graduated from prep and went to Gonzaga, of course, because my father was the vice president of Gonzaga University. And I lasted about maybe a half a year, and then I asked to see my dad. Went to his office. I'm his namesake, and I just said, "Dad, this isn't for me. I want to go in the hotel business." I was the resident manager of this 400-room hotel then. I was 19. I'd found my calling, and just, the method of learning at the time was just not my gig. And to my father's credit, this is a man of education. He's the vice president of Gonzaga University. His son is saying I'm out. And what he taught me was, when I have a daughter, and thankfully she is more like her mom, and loves school and is very good at it. But he just said, he didn't yell, he didn't get mad. He just said one thing. He said, "Then promise me one thing." And I said, "What's that?" And he said, "Then be good at it." And I said, "I will." And then I dove head into the hotel business, and thankfully that the Red Lion Hotels Corporation, when I finally ended up there, was based in Spokane at the time. And that was the corporate headquarters, and so kind of worked my way through there, and they moved the offices to Denver. And I just said, I'm not moving to Denver. And our general counsel wasn't going to move to Denver. Our chief financial officer wasn't going to move to Denver. So they said, "Well, we'll have a Spokane office too." And so kind of rose up through the ranks there, all along the journey. So I certainly worked for the hotels. I worked at the Hotel Luso, but I went and became the president and CEO of Visit Spokane. So I ran the Visitors Bureau for 5 years. But it was always tourism and travel related. But what a lot of people didn't know was that I bought into a company at the time called State Protection Services back in 2004. Wow. And Major was a state trooper. And the company was growing, and his wife, who is a registered nurse, said, "Look, I'll hold the steering wheel of the company." And so as I continued to work for Red Lion and Major for the Washington State Patrol as a detective, we would get together on weekends and we'd talk about our company. Because we always wanted to own our own company. We all worked for somebody, and I have no problem working for someone else, but ultimately wanted to work for myself.
It was the vision,
Yep.
yeah.
So we did that, and then, Red Lion grew. It was 58 hotels when I joined, and when I left in April of this year, it was 1,300 hotels, primarily franchises. But I knew that we were acquired by a company out of Boston called Sonesta, and they wanted to take us private. So we were a publicly traded company. They wanted to take us private. So I knew that when they bought us, the CEO, our CEO John at the time, our CFO, myself as the COO, we knew they had those roles in the company that was acquiring us. So it was no surprise to us that we were eventually going to leave. And they wanted me to stay. They said, "Would you consider staying?" And I entertained it for a moment, but I told Major, I said, I really believe that things happen for a reason, and we were almost ready to franchise the concept. Our plan was to wait another year or two, and I said, "What if we just accelerated the process and I left now?" And he said, "That would be awesome." And it's a leap of faith. I was paid a very, very, very good salary at Red Lion, and this company can't match that, but that's not why I'm doing it, right? I'm doing it because I believe that we can grow the company to greater heights than where I was with Red Lion, and so we decided. I decided to do it, and now we're all in. So just growing up here, primarily the hospitality business, I wanted to be in law enforcement, and my wife, at the time, it was before we were married, she said, "You should have made that decision before we met, because I don't know if I'm comfortable with you leaving every night and whatever." So the closest thing I could get to it is to buy into a security company.
There you go. Exactly.
So anyway, so that's an abbreviated version of my journey, and I've been heavily involved in Spokane. I've been the chair of the Boys and Girls Club. I was the incoming chair for the Spokane Club. I was, I always wanted to give back to the community, and was heavily involved in it, and I still am to a degree. But I love Spokane. I love where we live, and what's nice about this is that we're really serving a lot of clients right now. There's a lot of folks that really appreciate the service we're providing them right now. So
okay, so GoJoe, I think most people would recognize the brand. It's recognizable in the region. But I think there's some folks out there, a handful of them, that have been sheltering in place even prior to the pandemic, who may not know who you are. So just kind of describe what is GoJoe Patrol and kind of what makes it special. Yeah.
Well, it was State Protection Services. And this is, Major and I, it's unique that two friends can be in business together and really exist and have harmony. The one thing that we really got in an argument over was the name. So it was called State Protection Services. We're a private security company that does mobile patrols. We do armed guards. We do standing guards, site guards. So any type of private security you need. We've done executive protection and so on. But at the time, our cars, our image looked just like the police. We looked like the police. Our cars we bought from police auctions.
Oh, gotcha.
And I told Major, I said, "I don't think people know that they can hire the police." And so I want to change the name. We've got to stand out, because if you don't differentiate yourself, then all that's left is price. So if you can't differentiate, then it's price. And I said, I'm tired of competing for 50 cents an hour. And so we hired Clint Hosmer to come up with this. And Major said, "What are we selling? A cup of coffee? GoJoe." And GoJoe is a very whimsical name. If anybody goes out there and tries to start a business and tries to trademark a name, you'll find that it's very difficult to trademark common words. So if you, in security, you would pick something related to security. It was taken, it was protected. So we had to come up with something that was a little bit whimsical, but did that. And GoJoe was one of they came up with literally almost 200 names. Yeah. And we picked GoJoe, and we liked the association with, call Joe. You need security, call Joe.
Yeah.
There's no Joe. There's no named Joe in our company. It's almost like Charlie's Angels, where Charlie was just never seen, right? But Joe embodies our personal beliefs about working hard and making sure that what you work for isn't taken away from you. And so Joe is more of a personality. So with GoJoe Patrol, we feel very strongly that the cars that we drive, they're driving thousands of miles every year. And so we felt it was very important to offset their carbon footprint. We work with a company called Native out of Vermont, Native Energy. And every single mile that's driven with the car is offset with the carbon. We buy the carbon offset. Every franchise that will come into our system will be required by us as the brand to do the same. And as we get to a certain size, what's neat about Native is we can actually take the money that is being offset, and GoJoe Patrol can pick a project.
Nice.
Reforesting this or doing this or so we feel that's really strong. The other thing about GoJoe that changed when we changed the name a little bit is we don't pretend that we're the police. You look at a lot of security companies, they either have so much stuff on their belt to say they don't have a gun, or they're named after a police code, or we're huge supporters of law enforcement. But the public's perception of law enforcement has changed. You can't deny that. And so a security company, the more they pretend to be law enforcement, the more trouble. I mean, in high school, I tormented security guards. I mean, I knew what he or he couldn't do. And so what we don't want to be is we don't want to be that. We have too much respect for law enforcement to pretend to be law enforcement. So we're there to observe and report. And so our guards are not, we have a handful of people that are armed in our company, but we're very selective of who gets a gun. Most of them don't. They don't have mace. They don't have tasers. And the hospitality component of my world, I ran huge nightclubs. Well, the minute you get into a drunk's face, you're going to cause a problem. So there's a way to do that, to de-escalate something and just say, hey, you don't want to ruin tonight. Let's go have some cocktails someplace else, or let's get you a ride home, or whatever. And it's the same thing with our patrol. So we get a lot of compliments from our clients that say the way that you're treating the homeless population, the way that you're approaching people is not a threatening, hey pal, I'm going to hitch up my pants and you're going to get out of here. It's a conversation, and it's and you got to have empathy. You don't know what they just went through. You don't know what they're dealing with in their life, and to come upon a scene and to immediately kind of start being authoritative, I should say, then you're asking for it. So GoJoe is, we're committed to the environment. Our image stands out because we want you to know that you can hire us, that we're not the police. We don't pretend to be the police. And our training is a little bit different as it relates to that. And and we want to make sure that when we look for franchises that we find people that feel the same way as we do, because I can't have the first few franchises come out of the gate and not really emulate what we're doing.
Exactly.
So,
well, I'll be honest, the brand, even just from my perspective and in seeing it around town, the brand itself does a good job of kind of feeling like it's connected to the community as opposed to like, something separate that you can't relate in. So that was interesting. Just as I was cruising the website and thinking about seeing your cars around town, it just seems like maybe it's the name plus the brand. I don't know, but it just feels like part of us.
Well, and no one noticed. So we had cars out there that, if you were to see one of our old cars, no one ever said, I see your cars everywhere. No one said that ever. When I joined the company, I bought Major's former partner out. This is back in 2004, and the cars didn't even have a website or a phone number on them. And so we didn't have a Yellow Book ad. Back then you needed that.
That was the spot.
But now we get people saying, "I see your cars everywhere." And the logo has the eyes in it, and just the OJO in Spanish means eyes. And we didn't know that because my sister lives in South America, and she told me, she goes, Harry, do you know that?
Did you know that?
Did you know
That's
that?
Crazy.
But Joe will be watching is our tagline that we will be watching. And then technology. We have the latest, greatest technology in our cars, in our systems. So, if you hired us, you'd know when we were at your location, if we didn't show up at your location.
Yeah.
And you don't get billed, by the way. But what fascinates me is that people have security companies working for them, and they don't have any requirement of reporting and proving that they were there, because most of our clients were there at night. Mm-hmm. So we have cameras, we have GPS, and our reports have pictures, and so we feel that technology is critical to really justify what we do at night.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
well, that definitely sets you apart. Very cool. Yeah. So I think let's dive into a little bit about your own personal leadership style and qualities, and kind of take us through a description of, how, if you had to describe to us in a few words, what your personal leadership style is like.
Yeah, and I've been asked that question before, and I never fully know how to understand it, because I don't know how to put a label on it. I've been very lucky to manage some extremely talented people that were much smarter than I, and one of them went onto my LinkedIn page and said that really I emulated a servant leadership attitude, and it was very flattering that he did that, and certainly a servant leadership is someone who is very concerned about the team, coaches them, puts them first, and so on. And I certainly do that, but I have a very high commitment to the company, because if you don't deliver, then the people that you love and you work for won't have a job. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I would say that my style is very inclusive. I want to know what I might be missing. I'm very, very passionate, and unfortunately that passion sometimes over my career is translated into a non-negotiable position. When I was with the Convention and Visitors Bureau, I had 3 vice presidents who were extremely talented, but I would get very worked up about something, and either passionate about it or focused on it or whatever, and the way I'm explaining it, and the way we're going to go kick some ass, and the way we're going to do this, and they would leave the office. And one time, we made a mistake. My direction was a mistake, and we later got together, and I said, one of the executives said, I was afraid to tell you that, and I said, well, why didn't you tell me that? And he said, because you were so adamant about it, I thought that it was done. So that was a real turning point for me, because I am excitable, I am pretty driven and pretty focused, and what I try to do now, and I learned from that day, is I will lay out what we need to do as passionately as I do, and then I'll stop and say, so what am I missing? And that was a sentence I put into everything that I did. So what am I missing? Yeah. And I told them that when you hear me say that, I want that feedback. Because leaders, I thought at first leaders had to know everything. They had to be the person that had all the answers. And oh my God, thank God I found out that that's not true. Because what a burden. But I want to know, what are you good at? What are you good at? I certainly understand financials and the P&L, but I'm not an expert at it. But I have someone on my team that is, and I celebrate him, and I put him up there, and I let him present and to our CEO and whatever, and I want it all to be about him, because he's so good at it. And what he comes away with that is that I'm valued, and so I would say that I am extremely driven. I'm very passionate, but I truly believe that a team, you have to have the team buy into it. It can't be just because I'm an executive and I've made this decision. You're just not going to get there. You're not going to get there. So, and that's, you become vulnerable when you have people on your team, or you can think that you become vulnerable by having people on your team that are smarter than you in certain areas. And but I always tell them, be careful what you wish for. I appreciate that you're striving or whatever, but you want to come up into my chair. Let me just tell you a little bit about the stuff that you have no idea what I deal with on a regular basis. And that's the other part of leadership. It's my job to hear what's going to happen or whatever, and put up with the drama and shoulder it. but I'm not going to translate it and tell everybody what a shitty day I had, and you should have some empathy for me because you have no idea what I'm going through. No, my job is to shield them from that and focus on what they need to do and what we need to accomplish, and keep the drama out of it. I'm not going to get up there and be the martyr, and I need to keep them away from that. So So I would say that over the years that and I like to have a lot of fun. I love to tease people. And I love to be ribbed back. I love for them to get me and say whatever, and I really, really do. But I would say the thing that I have to work on the most, and still to this day, is sometimes my delivery. When I've decided that we got to go, there's a sense of urgency here that I have to really think about how I'm saying it. Because particularly with the new team, here I've not been involved in the day-to-day operations of this organization until 3 months ago. So I've just got to be very well aware. My team at Red Lion knew me very well, and they knew what to read into and what not to read into. So it's kind of
how to take you and
I had that exact same thing happen literally a couple weeks ago, and something just didn't feel right. It wasn't working. And I'm like, what's the deal? And they're, well, you said this is the way it needed to be. And I'm like, oh no.
Yeah,
I did, and I was just revved up. I was super excited. So taking it back a notch, and like now I've got everybody on the same page. Just because I'm saying this is the way it has to be, and I'm the final decision maker. We have to make the decision. So please the input. We need it all. And I'm to the place just starting this week, just like, so what do you think? Get the input, because it's way better than I had thought.
Oh, absolutely.
Always.
Yeah. Absolutely. We had, we were going to put a stool into the shower because women, when they shave their legs in the hotubas, they needed a ledge or something to put their leg up on.
Oh, yeah.
So our chief marketing officer at the time, he's come up with this stool and whatever. And I said, have you asked our executive housekeepers what they think about that? No, why would we do that? Because they're the ones that have to clean the damn thing, and they're the ones that have to move it around, and let's get their input on that, and so I did, and they said it'd be a nightmare. It would be a nightmare to keep clean, and so so what we'd rather do is put in a heavy piece of tile in the corner, and reinforce it so they can put their leg on there. But they were going to move ahead with this without asking, and it goes. This was, I think I was probably 17 or 18 years old, and I'm working the front desk of the Sheraton. It's a huge front desk, 400-room hotel. We hear rumors they're going to remodel the front desk. Oh, right. Oh, great, interesting. Then we get moved. We see people up with plans. Then we get moved to one side of the desk while they start to work on that side, and then they move us over on that side, and then they're done, and it's a cluster. I mean, we had everything right where we needed to be. Now I have to walk this far, and not one of these brilliant people thought to ask the front desk clerks, what do you think about this? And I've never forgotten that.
Wow.
Never forgotten that.
That's kind of an important thing, because I think vision and strategy shouldn't be confused with execution.
Amen.
Yeah.
And, the people that are on the ground every day have a perspective that leaders don't. So that's
workflow is everything.
And the listening, the other lesson from the Sheraton, again, that still stick with me is I was put into so I was a resident manager. So that means I'm the manager of a 400-room hotel at night. After 5 o'clock, I'm in charge. So I did that for a while, and I had a really great mentor. His name was Hubertus Gunther, German, and he comes to me and he says, all right, now your next step is you're going to be the kitchen steward. I said, what's the kitchen steward? He goes, you're in charge of the dish room. He goes, we're seeing $80,000 in breakage, and people are breaking glasses, or there's busing procedures, and so okay, fine. So now I'm in the dish room. Everyone's like, what the hell did Harry do? He's in the dish room. Well, it was probably one of the most eye-opening experiences I've ever had, because busing procedures, they're throwing away creamers, we're breaking stuff. When you see stacks of glasses, you don't realize they're $5 each. And so it was fascinating to me. But there was always, when I went through the kitchen, there was always a gentleman in there who was a little developmentally disabled, and I just always had such great respect for him. So I'd always go in and talk to him. I'd always say, how you doing? I love the fact that he's just in there and he's plugging away. Well, now I'm his boss, so it's time for inventory, and we have to count everything. And so I'd seen them as I went through there counting silverware and whatever, and Langley was right there, and so it's our time. And he goes, "Do you want to know my secret about this inventory?" And I said, "Yes. Tell me your secret." So he takes all the silverware, and we go to the back dock, and he counts out 100 knives. 100, right? And I'm like, "Yes, 100 knives." And he puts it on the scale, and they weigh
nice.
They weigh 5 pounds. And I'm like, "Oh my God, we're going to weigh the silverware. We're going to be done in seconds." And I said, "Why haven't you done that?" And he said, "No one ever respected me enough, and you respected me, and you always wanted to know my input." And it gives me chills to even think about that.
That's great.
But here's this guy that people would dismiss.
Yeah.
But he had an idea that none of these brilliant people could think of, and it was brilliant.
That is brilliant.
It was brilliant. And from then on, the silverware got weighed. But
it's now an industry standard.
I don't know. Anybody that doesn't freaking ask the people that are in the trenches every day is an idiot.
That is
absolutely
awesome. So, I love that.
Anyway,
I like it.
So there's an interesting, with every episode that we do, there's kind of an interesting theme below the surface. I think today, what we've been curious about is you're in an industry that can involve crisis and preventing crisis, things like that. What are some of the intricate or unique leadership things that make unique leadership aspects of the security industry?
Well, I think that the security industry is changing very rapidly for a couple of reasons. One, because of technology. So eventually we have to stay on top of that, because eventually you'll have cars that are driving around by themselves. But you still need the human component. You still need it. The civil unrest out there right now. The police department's being defunded. Cannabis being legalized on a federal level. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I think that as I said earlier, if you're not aware of those things, and if you don't have empathy for those changes and try to understand where people are coming from, in security in particular, you're going to have a hard time if you're not a leader in recognizing and training your team to flex to that. I mean, again, back to the security guard when I was in high school, it was do it because I told you so. I'm gonna, you guys, and pretending almost that they could arrest us. I don't think people have any understanding that a security guard, no matter what company they work for, has as much authority to arrest you as you or I. They're not commissioned, right? Mm-hmm. And so the more you pretend to do that. So I think that Major and I's role in the leadership of this business is to make sure that we understand that you can accomplish the job without that authoritative mentality to it, and empathy and understanding go a long, long way, and to have a conversation. So what's going on tonight, man? What are you finding? Homelessness is probably the biggest thing that we're running into right now.
Sure.
Is businesses are doing that, and again, it's incumbent upon us to try to get with our team and explain what it is. It's incumbent upon us to get with our team to explain that our cars are polluting the environment, and whether you believe in global warming or you don't, you can't escape that carbon monoxide is going into the atmosphere, and explain why we're doing it and why it's important to us, and how we're differentiating ourselves. So and then the last thing I would say as far as leadership here is we have to keep an eye on where are we going. I mean, we were talking earlier as you were setting up, how the technology has changed in the film industry or into going to the movies, and so if we're not constantly looking on the horizon to say what's going on in our industry that's changing and be ready for it and not be afraid of it or resist it, we'll be fine. But if you don't adapt and if you don't think about it, because the danger is that we're doing very well right now. We could just be here and live here, and, and just be fine. And I could say I'm gonna take another trip, and now I'm my own boss. And I think that's where the danger is that companies, when things get to be really good, they don't want to upset it. They don't want to rattle it a little because it's going pretty good. I think if you don't stay a little uncomfortable, you're going to find that you missed something. And so I'm never ever satisfied. I've got to look at something else. We've got to do something else. And you can't do that just to do it. But I think just like our GoJoe name, if you throw 100 things on the board and we decide that out of all of those, there's 2 things that we think have some legs, then how do we lead our team to do that and educate them along the way? Back to our earlier conversation, you can't say do it because I told you so, but here's the reason we're doing that. So
and they'll buy in. Yeah.
The same fundamentals hold true in the security industry as they do really for anybody else, but it's rapidly changing. It
is. Yeah, and the world can pass by any company out there. I mean, Amazon, the world could pass it by in an instant, but they keep innovating, coming up with new angles, new ideas, and so far that's kept them rising with the tide, so to speak. So very cool. So I think a unique aspect of what we just talked about is it can be pretty easy for people to lead during those smooth waters. But some of the most intriguing, I guess, leadership books that I read are maybe about Army generals or things like that, where their ability to lead when things are crazy and lives are on the line it's inspiring.
Yes.
So there's people that are formally called leaders because of their title, but how do they develop maybe those skills to lead during crisis? What are your thoughts?
Well, it's interesting. I think about my career. Thankfully, the burden of lives and so on, as you explained, we have so much respect for those people because at the end of the day, no one's going to die. But I think it's just having the guts to do what your instincts are telling you to do. Red Lion opened or started a new brand called the Hotel RL. It's a lifestyle brand, and the first hotel we bought the hotel in Baltimore, Maryland, and it's 2 blocks off of the Inner Harbor. And it was going to be an Indigo, and it failed. And so it's a beautiful building, beautiful project, and that was going to be our first. And so, unfortunately, our marketing department said we're going to have our grand opening on this day. It was August 31st. It was 4 years ago, and so the pressure was intense because we had the hotel journal, the business magazines were all there. Our board of directors was going to be there. Our investors were going to be there. Our CEO was going to be there. The executives were going to be there. We were all going to be there to celebrate the grand opening. And I was the chief operating officer at the time. And unfortunately, as we all know, if we're going to build something, the timelines slip and so on. And so it was becoming very clear that this date was going to be a huge challenge. And I asked if we could move it. No, it's already been printed. Everyone's made their plane tickets and so on. And so I'll never forget, it was 2 days before we did it, and I quite frankly didn't think that it was going to actually happen. But I never, ever give up. I'm always convinced that we'll figure it out. And I remember it was absolute chaos because in the hotel, we had our CEO, we had our board chair, we had one of our big investors, we had our CFO, our general counsel, the general manager, his team, and there were so many bosses that it was ridiculous. And so finally, and one of the concepts is called the living stage, and had these steps that look there. And so I demanded that I needed to see everybody in the lobby at 4 o'clock. So everyone got there. And I took a risk. I just sat down and said, okay, guys, you got to listen to me. This isn't going to happen if we don't get this done. So I said, and I pointed to our CEO, I need you to do this. Our general counsel was cleaning windows. And because here was the thing that I faced. If I didn't do that, and it was uncomfortable to do that because I'm telling my boss's boss, and I'm telling everybody, look, get your shit together. So, but if I didn't and we failed, it's me. I'm the chief development officer. I'm the chief operating officer. So I was in a damned if I do, damned if I don't. And so I chose to be bold and say, sit down, and we got it done. If you opened some of the closets that opening night, you'd find that there was stuff shoved in there. But I'll be damned if people went away saying that was amazing.
Wow.
And luckily, I walked back to the hotel. We couldn't stay in the hotel because we didn't have an occupancy permit, but we could be in the lobby,
Yeah.
showrooms. But our CEO, I got out of the elevator before he did, and he held the door and he said, "I just want you to know that I don't think I could have pulled that off." He said, "Thank you.
Wow.
You did a great job." And in front of someone else that actually witnessed it, because he didn't offer those
Wow.
that often. But I think that in those crises when it's crazy, and by the way, the list that I told everybody what they needed to do, I got that from the executive housekeeper, the general manager. So these were the people that were saying, "My God, there's 50 bosses in here.
Yeah.
We're never going to get it done." And so I went to them and said, "What do we need to do?" And then that's how I divvied up the list. But I told everybody, including our board chair, as to what they were going to do. And to their credit, they did it because I think someone was looking for someone to say, "Stop. This is what we're going to do." And I think that was one of the biggest lessons, because I really debated, what am I going to do? Am I going to tell them to sit down and stop it? And you're not doing that, you're doing this. And so I think that in those moments, when people face those moments, they have to think about it and say, what I learned, I was, for a long, long time, I was insecure that I didn't have a college education. I didn't have a college degree. So that bothered me for a while. And then I realized that I had MBAs working for me. I would never dismiss higher education. My wife's an attorney. My daughter is extremely well. I love it. But what I learned was that didn't define me. It didn't define me at all. And what you had to do is you had to have enough guts to say, this is what we're going to do. Those generals, they have to go with their instinct, and they have to make a call that they're not sure of the outcome, but someone's got to make the damn call. Yeah. And so, I'll never forget that, because it turned out very well. People basically fell in line, and it was a success. So I think when things are calm, yes, it's very easy to lead, but when it starts to get real, that's where you find people really stand up and take a risk instead of protecting their rear end.
It's almost like the natural instinct kicks in when you have the nothing to lose mentality. Right. Like you're in the last hour.
Yeah.
Well, it's fight or flight. Yeah. It's literally, do I fight this thing, or do I get the hell out of here? Or do I start coming up with reasons as to why it wasn't my fault when we fail? Do I spend all my time coming up with a list of who didn't do what, and that's why it didn't work? Or do I just dig in even deeper and say, you're doing this to make this happen, right? Yeah. And it's a gamble either way.
There's never been a bad time to have your back against the wall. I think that would be my thought.
I actually do better. I sometimes wonder if I create chaos sometimes, just because because when everything is just kind of going along and it's just moving, I'm just thinking to myself, this is not healthy, and how do we shake this up a little bit and see what rattles out? And I've been accused of that before, where I'll throw a hand grenade in somewhere and just see what falls out, because I don't know how else to say, this isn't working. Let's see what happens when we do this. And but you also have to be accountable. I can't tell you how many times I've looked in the mirror and said, man, you screwed up. A leader should never, ever, ever be ashamed to tell their team, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry. Or I was wrong.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I just, and I'll tell you, teams respond very well to that. When I took over as Chief Development Officer for Red Lion, that was not my experience. I had some experience, but it was operations. Yeah. And I grabbed the team together, and I sat them all in a room. They'd all been in development for years. And I said, I want to make sure you guys understand, this is not my strong suit. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I am an expert at this, but I will tell you that I understand it. Yeah. And don't BS me. And I'm going to rely on your experience and your expertise, and we're going to do this together. And I had two guys come up afterward and said, you have no idea what kind of street cred that just gave you, because they knew it. They knew it. So am I going to sit there and pretend that I know it all? But I wanted them to know, I'm going to rely on you and I'm going to support you. But I'm not a dummy. So don't try to take advantage of me because you will lose there. But that I was up there and I was vulnerable in front of them, and it really gave them a great feeling that this was going to work.
Yeah, probably more connection to you too.
Yeah.
Totally.
Brought
Good
down
energy.
walls and
Good energy.
Yeah, because the emotional energy of a team, you can have a fit and walk out or say do it because I said so, and you can feel good. But the emotional health of your team, if it's not, if they're not all doing a great job, you're not going to get the results that you want.
Yeah.
You're just not. They're doing it because they have to, instead of making it fun or finding somebody that's really been in the trenches and say, you know what, lifting them out for a minute and saying, take your wife to dinner. On me. You guys take it and go to dinner. You've been working your butt off. I just want you to know how much I appreciate you. And you have to mean it because they know if you're phony when you do that. I've seen guys do that and they just really don't mean it. They think that it works.
Gotcha.
That's too bad. Do it because of the feeling. You gotta do it because of the feeling, or don't do it at all. Mm-hmm. There's more damage done by trying to be nice instead of doing it from the heart.
Correct.
I think that's probably a missing key point to a lot of businesses. Maybe that's part of the reason 95% fail is because there's no heart in the company.
Just being genuine.
No.
Genuine, absolutely.
No.
Yeah.
We're having a terrible time scheduling people. We've got tremendous overtime, again, because of workforce and whatever. Mm-hmm. And one of our senior leaders here just distraught about it and sent an email. And so I just called her yesterday and I said, I just want you to know how much I sincerely appreciate how serious you're taking this. And she's anguished that we're paying so much overtime. And it wasn't this, I don't care, it's not my company or whatever. I mean, she was taking it personally. And I just said, that's rare. And I meant it from my heart that it's like, that's so cool that we have people on our team that operate like that. But it also starts when we appreciate them and defer to them and work with them. So, but it is amazing to me that there are still very, very successful leaders who make a lot of money, and I just shake my head and say, how is that possible? I mean, what am I doing wrong? And somehow they always seem to land on their feet and find another gig that pays them a lot of money. But I think that you can't judge your career on that. But sometimes I just shake my head and say, what is going on in the world here?
Yep. There will always be bad leaders out there, I believe, but the good ones are definitely felt and make an impact. So
we're all a work in progress.
Oh, absolutely. If the minute you think you've arrived, you better quit.
Oh man. That's worse than calm waters.
That's right.
Thinking you've arrived. Yeah. Well, their GoJoe Patrol is on the brink of some pretty monumental changes that have been in the works for a long time, it sounds like. So tell us about the franchising model that you guys are rolling out.
Well, franchising is an interesting concept. It needs to be, the concept needs to be replicable. You have to replicate it. It needs to be scalable. And you have to have the support behind it. And so, we hired a company out of Atlanta called MSA Worldwide. I met her at a seminar. She put on a seminar. Her name was Kay Ainsley. And she helped two firefighters start a company called Firehouse Subs. And two firefighters, and they had 1,200 locations, and now they've sold onto a bigger company. But I just got tired of competing, as I said earlier, on price only.
Right.
So we felt very strongly that with the law enforcement background that Major had, and our head of operations here as well, mixed with my experience in franchise operations and franchise support, and the concept that we had, that we felt that it would fit the model. And it's been proven out, and we've had people say, please tell me, don't feel that you're going to hurt my feelings. I don't want to spend all this money and have it be a mistake. Yeah. So, and they feel very strongly that the concept's there. There's only one other company in the United States that really does what we do for security. Really? And they have, we have 0 locations. They have 365. But that just makes me even more determined. I'm gonna go after them like a dog with a bone. But not after them, but I'm gonna grow our business
after their customers.
So what we're looking for really is, you don't have to understand security. you have to understand business and you have to understand hard work. So we have to file what's called a franchise disclosure document, and it's a highly regulated business. So I can't, if I speak to somebody on the phone, I can't tell them how much they could earn, or I can tell them we file in our disclosure what our business here does, and I can speak to what we do. However, we've been in business for a very long time, and but we're going to go after. We think the sweet spot is military, retired military,
Sure.
and law enforcement as they leave and say, I can't do this anymore. I just can't do this anymore. And so we want to say, look, we've got a business in a box. We have all of your brand standards manuals. We have your onboarding. We have your SOPs. We have all of marketing plan examples. When they sign on for a franchise, they come to Spokane for 5 days. And it's 8 hours to 10 hours a day of training. And then once they go back to their location, we're with them to help them open it up. So they'll go they'll go at night with our patrols. We'll role play sales calls and so on. But what they get is they get a relationship and a partnership. They don't have to come up with their own name. We do all of the collateral. We do all of the support. The systems, we've already vetted them. We've already flushed the systems that we don't like. We're going to tell them this is really state-of-the-art equipment. This is how we use it. This is how you bill. This is how you make sure you're watching your overtime. And we're going to really make it easy for them to open their business. We had to learn the hard way. And that's what franchises do, whether it's a McDonald's or a Subway or a GoJoe. You're buying a system, and you're buying support, and you're buying a relationship. And our danger, what I'm afraid of, is that we're so committed to their success that we have to be careful. We did this at Red Lion. If you go too far, you support them too far, then they can't stand on their own. So we have to balance this. How do we support them? But they have to understand that the first year or so, they're going to work their rear ends off. Yeah. And most of it's at night.
Right.
It's at night. I mean, when Major and I started this business, on his day off, or I'd work the front desk, and after I got off, I'd put on a uniform and I'd go stand on a used car lot. So I'd worked all day, and I worked till 1 a.m., and then I would go to work, and because we couldn't afford employees. At the time. Yep. And so, and now we have almost 100 employees. So, but we're going to be looking for people who have the financial wherewithal to withstand, a year of ebbs and flows. Right. We're looking for somebody who's committed to their community, that's involved in their community, that they're on boards, we don't care what they do, but get involved. Join the Boys and Girls Club board. And not to get business, but just to be part of the community. Yeah, because that's a huge part of your brand. If you give value first, if you do something for someone else and you help the Boys and Girls Club, or you help this, and you just do that with all your heart, then it's going to come back to you in spades. I mean, you're going to do well. And so I want them involved in the community. I want them to understand business. I want them to understand hard work, and that it won't come easy. And so we interview them. They'll come here. Yeah. We want our team to have input. Yeah. So it won't be just Major and I and our wives. We want our team to be part of the process and interview them. Yeah. Because I want to know what Bob thinks. I want to know what Deb thinks. And because I might not see what they see. And we want to have that discussion. And if we all say we think they'll be a good candidate, and the beauty about where we are is I don't need to sell a franchise. We really don't, but we're going to. Yeah. But we're not so desperate to put numbers on the board.
You'll just take anybody. Yeah.
I think that was a mistake Red Lion made. In the end, there is because we were publicly traded, we were pressured to show growth in the system, and I think the team at the time. And I'm not saying this to blame them. I think the pressures were there for them to get whoever they could. Well, I was in franchise operations at the time, so they'd bring in kind of a sketchy owner that wouldn't do what he was supposed to do, didn't put the sign up, didn't live the brand, and we should have never taken them. Yeah. And so I learned from that to say it's really critical as to who we take on, and the first 5 are critical. Because if I approach you, you're going to say, who else is a franchise? Yep. And you're going to call them up. Yeah. You're going to say, what do you think of these guys? And if it isn't glowing reports, then we probably won't sell any others.
100%.
Wow. Yeah, there's a lot there. I think there's a whole separate podcast episode about how to interview people to really get a feel for
Yes.
them being the right fit. Because I mean, historically, there's an issue with interviewing process of how do I tell that person that I'm asking questions of, how do I tell if their answers actually translate to them doing a good job?
Correct.
So
Correct.
I don't know if you have any secrets on that real quick.
Well,
but
we'll get there. We ask for all their financials. They have to provide us with all their financials.
Yeah.
So we'll know financially, do they have the ability to do that? The last
Right.
thing I want to do is put them in jeopardy. I don't want, these are 10-year agreements. So what I don't
Yeah.
want to do is have them pay a $40,000 initial franchise fee that's non-refundable.
Yeah.
They're going to spend anywhere from $67,000 to $140,000 for the first 3 months to operate their business, and we don't want to put that on anyone that we don't think can actually do it. Because
Yeah.
how terrible would that be
Yeah.
for them to take a risk and not do it? So we want to know their financials, and then we are going to ask for proof of how are they involved in the community. Who is it that we could call? Give me an example of where you had to dig deep, and what is your understanding of business?
Nice.
And we're going to ask those things, and they're not going to all have great answers, but we'll get a good enough idea to say. And the FDD, which is a franchise disclosure document, it's 164 pages, and it basically gives you the gloom and doom. They could take your house. They could do, and FDDs
Yeah.
are filed only in a dozen states that require it. The other states don't require it. Washington State is one of them where you have to provide this. I can't sell a franchise without the franchise disclosure document being disclosed to them.
Mm-hmm.
But it tells them, are you sure?
This is not
Yeah, are you double
light
sure?
decision. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you're hoping that they've read that, and
Yeah.
we asked them, did you hire an attorney? Did you get an attorney to do that? Have you had an accountant look at this? And if they say I have, and it's not going to work, well, thank God.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed
You
to
found out now
they
as
just signed a
opposed to
contract, a
6
10-year
months
agreement
down.
with us.
Yeah.
No way. So and I will tell you, not all franchisors feel that same way. A large majority do, but there's always a few that are just looking to say, look, I want to sell this in this concept in 3 or 4 years. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get 100 franchisees in here, and I'm going to sell it. And they're not thinking that they should have built it smartly at the beginning.
Yeah. Building that foundation.
Because
So-
we get a percentage of their royalty. So if their business is languishing,
Yeah.
my percentage of their business is squat.
Yeah. Well, and the other important thing that you mentioned is like you guys actually care about the person that's coming in too. I mean, you care
Truly.
about them having success.
Yeah. And can we work with them?
And then the byproduct of that is everybody is making profit. So I think it's important to keep that at the core, as caring about humans,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
So-
It goes back to empathy.
That's
Yeah.
right.
You have to have empathy. I know you want to be your own boss. I know that you feel you have it, but you're going to put your family in terrible jeopardy if you do
Yes.
this. And that's our feeling, and we're told not to get into a detailed why if we do decide to decline someone, we'll say that the committee decided against it.
Yeah.
And we're not really going to dive into, this is, we
Beating
don't
them
have to
up
disclose
or-
why,
yeah. Okay.
but behind the scenes, really, that's what we're going to be looking at.
Yeah. Very nice.
I like looking at people's career page.
Correct.
You can find the values and the drive of the company, and I've put a lot of emphasis on that, and it helps the hiring process so much better. Matter of fact, if you're going to invest in humans and make that your lifestyle, you got to know who you're getting. But I love that having empathy has changed our business 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Letting them know, like, here's a day in the life at Kinetic. Here's a day in the life of
Correct.
working with our clients, and here's what you can expect from some of our clients. We're very transparent about it. It's in public. It's on our website.
Yep.
And it's changed the game. Some people won't apply that would have, just because they're spitballing resumes, but most of the people everybody that we have on our team right now has gone above and beyond to get hired.
Yeah.
Because they like the values of our company.
Yes.
So kudos.
We're fine.
I think it's super cool that you're putting
Yeah.
that much effort into franchising when it could be turnkey dollars for you today.
It could,
Putting
but
the
it'll
time-
also make
yeah.
our lives miserable.
It would.
Yeah.
100%. Well, I've had them. There's been years where we've had employees that I thought was a good fit,
Yeah.
but they weren't because they didn't know everything coming into it. Yeah.
That's pretty important. I mean, leadership, sales, you name it, transparency is pretty important, because if you get somebody into something that they didn't really realize, I mean, they're going to be gone and it's going to be a nightmare. But why not tell them what it's really like, and then the people that are good fits for it
If
will
they still want to
will
proceed.
land. Yeah.
It's the same thing of letting someone on a team who's caustic and let them stay there, because you don't want to have that conversation with them about it, and that's the other mistake that people make. Well, he or she is doing a great job. Yeah, but he or she is toxic to the organization. And what I've found is when you finally pull that weed, other flowers start to bloom where they were kept down prior. And so I can't have a franchisee who's negative and is poisoning the well with the others.
Yeah. So a franchisee looking at GoJoe versus I don't know, Jimmy John's or something like that. I mean, why would somebody choose GoJoe if they're looking to get into a franchise? Like, what's the really hook for them?
Well, I think that we are talking to people who are looking at other concepts. So Jimmy John's, for example, you need real estate, you need a building, you need ovens, and so when you look at the startup cost of a Jimmy John's, it's much greater than the startup of a GoJoe Patrol. So with GoJoe Patrol, you can work from your home for the first 6 months, and then you just need an office space that has 600 square feet, right? And you need a car. You need. We suggest you have 2 cars. You have to buy the equipment that we specify, and so on. So the buy-in is much lower, and if you were to go sell the franchise because of the investment in a Jimmy John's, your ROI there, or return on your investment or invested capital, is going to be exponentially higher. But you also went into this business with a lot more money on the line. So it just depends on what you want to do. I think that people like this concept because it's pretty straightforward. Particularly the people we're targeting, which is law enforcement, military. They get the concept instantly.
Right.
Yeah.
They're comfortable with it. We interact with law enforcement all the time. Sheriff Knezovich here is a very good friend of ours, and we talk to him and share resources, and so it's kind of a natural there for that. If you're choosing between, and like I said, there's only one other security company that does that. Or if you're going to go alone, we would tell them, quite frankly, yes, you're going to be paying for our concept, but we're with you. We're standing with you. And we're going to show you all the things that we learned that you don't have to go through again. And sales, I was in sales my whole career. I think everybody sells every day. I don't think they realize they do. But there's a lot of emphasis in our training on sales. Because my fear is as law enforcement or military, have they really been involved in the process of selling?
Right.
Yeah. And if you don't get out there and knock on a door or get involved, you're not going to drive any business. And so that's where a lot of the emphasis. They'll get the cars, they'll get driving around, they'll understand the technology of that. But I really want them to understand what it takes to generate business.
The sales piece. Yeah.
And that's where if you went on alone, that's why Major and I make such great partners in our wives, is that he has all of that, and my background is hospitality and sales and marketing. So it's a great match. You don't have to have a partner in the marketing side, because we're going to bring that to you.
That's awesome.
Super cool.
Well, and the people you're targeting too, I mean, the military, law enforcement, they're used to training, and so give them something like sales that they've never heard before. I mean, they have the discipline, generally speaking, to carry through that. So really cool. Something I picked up on when you were talking there is you don't always have to, I guess, let me see if I can articulate this, but if you were trying to sell a military individual on opening a Jimmy John's, you have to explain to them why that concept could work for them and why that concept, is a good fit for them, etc. But you've gone out and, I mean, you have a concept that is already a good fit for them because of who they
You would
are.
think it would, but we still want to know, why do they want this?
Yeah.
What are their goals? Too often in sales, people start with all the features of their product, and they don't listen. And if you just start with asking questions and paraphrasing and getting to a point, okay, so what I heard you say is you're looking for da da da.
Yeah.
Then you can say, well, then let me tell you how this fits to that, rather than just basically throw up all over the front of them with all of the stuff. You've got to show how that works. So even though they're in military and even though they're in law enforcement, I still want to know, why are they doing this?
Yeah.
Why are you taking this leap of faith? What's important to you? What are you hoping to accomplish with it? Are you looking to pass a business down to your family? Do you have college to pay for? And so we'll be very upfront with them to say, I hope your kid isn't starting school for a couple of years, because it can take you that long to build up to some may not, depends on their location. If they're in Los Angeles, they may get there a lot quicker than someone in Boise.
Right.
You can grow your base faster.
Yes. Yeah. But we're very interested in why they want to do this. If they say, I don't know, that's terrifying.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
I like your logo. Okay.
Yeah,
well,
logo's cool, man.
Thank you.
GoJoe.
Yeah, Ojo.
Well, I think it's time for our 7th inning stretch.
Super
brought to you by
excited about it.
GoJoe Patrol.
Yeah. So we do the 7th inning stretch. It's our chance to get to know you as a human being in Spokane.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exciting. So I'll just jump right to it. A few of your favorite things here. What's your favorite Spokane entertainment?
Well, I am outdoors all the time. So it's skiing in the winter. We're huge skiers. So we ski we're at the lake during the summer. I bike on the Centennial Trail all the time. It's where I just get away and put my head down. And I ride with friends, but I oftentimes just like to ride by myself.
Yeah.
Just to do that. But I think that's the entertainment that I find. I mean, I don't go to the clubs anymore, really, or we'll go to a concert, but it's really just enjoying the Four Seasons and where we live.
Yeah. It's a common thread.
It is.
It's a very common thread. And
I was lucky enough to run the CVB, right? So I brought people from all over the country to consider bringing their event to Spokane.
Oh yeah, exactly.
U.S. figure skating, we were able to get them. But I wished that that I could have taken a camera along with me to broadcast to Spokane what people from Los Angeles, from New York. I wish I could have them hear what these people said about our community. It just reinforced everything that we say, and they just said, I cannot believe how beautiful this is. River. There's other cities that have a river, but it's like this slog. We've got a real river.
We got a real river.
So it is. It's a little cliche to say that I like the area, but that's what I enjoy. It's
not cliche at all.
Yeah.
Near nature, near perfect. Is the old slogan?
Yes, that was the slogan that I did when I was there, but I think it still holds true.
Yeah. Okay. So, favorite Spokane neighborhood? It does not have to be your own.
No, it's well. I like where I live now, but the Cannon Hill area. I grew up there. I moved up there when I was in 5th grade, and my parents lived there until my father died and my mom moved away. So, that neighborhood is still. I take my daughter up there trick or treating because it just has such great memories of me. So that's
nice.
That's my favorite.
Did you ever skate on the pond?
Oh heck yes.
Nice.
Yeah. I went to Cataldo, so I'd walk to school there, and that was a big part of my life.
Yeah, we used to go play pond hockey up there.
Yep.
Oh, sure.
Any chance we could get.
Yeah.
But it still happens, I think.
I don't. There's a bubbler in it, but I think there.
Stay away from the bubbler.
Yeah. 2 of my friends live right across the street from the park, so I'll look at it this winter.
Yeah, we lost a few pucks by the bubbler.
Yeah,
that's all right. That's good for the Ducks.
Yep.
Favorite Spokane coffee shop?
I'm a Starbucks guy. I just like strong black coffee. That's all I drink, and it's 1 cup. and I'm done. So, sitting in a coffee shop with a craft coffee, and that's just not my, it's not my gig. So, I mean, there's some wonderful coffee places here. My daughter is spending, I think, $3,000 a month when she's in town at Dutch Brothers, but but I just like just a black cup of coffee.
The good high octane punch for the day.
Make your spoon stand up.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm excited about this next one because you've experienced the culinary industry when it was only in a hotel. You went to a nice restaurant. You went to DoubleTree.
Yes.
Maybe out to Coeur d'Alene.
Yes.
But there's been a huge progression in the last 6 to 7 years in the culinary industry. So I want to hear what your favorite restaurant is in 2021.
Well, it's hard to say. There's one. I'll tell you my loop. It's the Park Lodge, Umi, the Park Inn by the hospital, and Luna. And I will say that I'm circulating those on a regular basis.
Nice.
I like what each of them bring. I don't think a lot of people know this, that our dear friends own the Park Inn, and there is a secret wine list. So if you ask to see, you never in a million years would you think that at the Park Inn you could get an Opus One or a Camus or whatever, and so and that's heavily influenced to me and my friends. We say we won't do that, and their chicken is out of this world. But I'd say those are the ones that I like to loop through, and if I'm going somewhere, I'm probably at one of those places.
Nice.
Definitely.
Well, those were all very first.
Umi is phenomenal. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it is.
Yep.
And shout out to Chef Joe Morris at Luna. I don't know. We'll have to make sure he knows.
You know your stuff, Doyle.
Yeah.
Yes, it's just that you just feel comfortable there, and they just do such a great job.
Yeah.
Cody, who runs the bar, it's like Norm. You go up there and you see him, and you're like, okay, I'm home.
Yeah, nice. Have you had Chef Joe's shrimp and grits?
Oh yes.
Oh man.
Ooh,
the best.
that sounds really good.
Best in town. Another shout out to Joe.
Very talented.
Getting hungry again.
I know. This is the worst part about seventh inning stretch. We have to eat before lunch.
I didn't eat.
Yeah.
I haven't eaten today.
Oh man.
And a banana.
Yeah, that's right. What do you enjoy most about Spokane?
Just the base that you can build here. It's someone said to me, how in the world did you get U.S. figure skating championships here twice? We beat out Providence, Rhode Island. We beat out Portland, Oregon. We beat out New York. The film, I was on the Washington State Film Commission where we incentivize films, and I was the only guy from Spokane that was on that board, and we would pick movies and we would determine who gets the incentive fund, and the incentive fund is driven by a diversion of the B&O tax, meaning that if I owe this B&O tax, I can either put it to the state or I can put it to Washington Filmworks. It's literally that easy. And you can raise up to $3.5 million. Well, all the guys are in Seattle, and it goes to the question of how'd you get U.S. figure skating? How in the world did 80% of the funding for that program come from Spokane and not Seattle? And it's because this community still believes in itself.
Yeah.
This community is so excited to help you. It's so cool. You can pick up the phone and you can speak to the mayor, you can speak to the head of the utilities company, you can speak to a president of the bank, and they're just excited about doing something for the community as you are.
Yeah.
And so that's what I love the most, is that we can band together and we can really, it's almost like we still have a chip on our shoulder to just prove
it's
that,
true. Yeah.
The biggest small town in America.
Yeah, it is. So it's just we just are can do. And what I get worried a little bit about that is, we have Hoop Fest and we have Bloomsday, and other communities would love to replicate those programs.
Yeah.
What I get worried about sometimes is that they are going to start to take them for granted.
Mm-hmm.
Hoop Fest went through a terrible turn that they couldn't have the program, and people are just going crazy over donating their money to this nonprofit that is just instrumental to this community. how'd you like if it went away? I don't think they have any understanding of what would happen if it went away.
Yeah.
And so that's where I get kind of frustrated. Is we're the community that did that. Let's not ever take those things for granted.
Exactly, and how much that brings to our community the rest of the year too, right? I mean,
and it gives us street cred to do other things.
Yeah.
When we were bidding on major conventions and conferences, we Hoop Fest and Bloomsday were perfect examples of how we can mobilize and deliver.
Yeah, it's cool.
Absolutely.
Biggest 3-on-3 basketball tournament in the world. Yeah.
It's inspiring.
It's almost like Christmas in June for Spokane, to be honest. Well,
Truly.
At least for travel and tourism.
Truly.
There's some bankroll coming in.
Truly.
Meg Winchester actually told us the number. I forget what it was, but it was,
I used to know all the
shocking.
figures, but yeah, it's
crazy figures.
Shocking.
Yeah.
It's all
Inspiring.
about basketball.
Speaking of inspiration, where do you get your kind of mentorship or inspiration for leadership?
Yeah, it's funny. I always there's a guy. His name's Jeffrey Gitomer, and he wrote a book called The Sales Bible, which I still read to this day. And in it, he said, "Commit, be a student for life." So one of the things that I get worked up about is that I'll reread some of these books. So I was just actually we went to New York, Major and I read Becoming a Category of One again, and that book was written back in 1990 or whatever, and that stuff just gets me going all over again. I get all excited again, and I'm ready to roll. But I'll go back to the books that inspired me. The GoJoe Patrol was purely from a book called Positioning, The Battle for Your Mind, and it was written by Jack Trout and Al Rees about 30 years ago. It is still as relevant today as it was then. And that book was the nucleus of GoJoe Patrol.
Wow.
So I still go to those things, and I still, I still think I'm still a little insecure that I still need to know more, and I think that's healthy.
Yeah.
The other thing that I have, and it goes back to what I said earlier, I have some very, very close friends of mine that have done extremely well in this community and are big leaders. And I can go and I can call them up and I can say, I need to bounce this off of you. Am I losing my mind? And they know me well enough, and I can be vulnerable with them. I can be wrong, or they'll say, are you insane?
Yeah.
Don't do that. Or no, you're right, or whatever. So it's so nice to have, and they're not in my industry, to go knock on their door and sit down and say, I'm struggling here.
Yeah.
I'm struggling. Yeah. And they run huge organizations, but I can go and sit down and say, hey buddy, can we talk? And there, because my mentors were early in my career, and there are still people who have influence on me, but when you get to a certain level, and I don't mean this the wrong way, but there's less people above you.
Sure.
Right? So early on in my career, there were lots of people above me that had profound impact on my life, bad and good.
Yeah.
But as you get to the level of, when I got to be the head of the Convention and Visitors Bureau, I'm sitting in the office and I'm the CEO and I'm looking around, and my dear friend Marty Dickinson, she was in charge of the Downtown Spokane Partnership, and I called her up and I said, I can't believe I'm here. I swear to God, someone's going to knock on the door and say, we made a terrible mistake. What are you doing in here? And so I think that if you don't have that's healthy to do that. You can't let it deter you from doing what you need to do. But it's just nice to be able to call up people and say, hey, because as you get higher and higher, they think you have all the answers, and you don't.
Yeah.
You don't. You certainly know a lot, and you see trends, and you say, I've seen this pattern before.
Right.
Doesn't mean it's going to come out the same way. But mentors, I had some great mentors. But now I look to my dear friends and colleagues to say, can I just voice this out with you?
Yeah, what do you think of this?
Yeah.
So once in a while, all of us get in a kind of a rut.
Yeah.
Maybe we wake up and we're just not feeling it or what have you. As a leader, how do you kind of get through that and motivate beyond that?
For me, I've really discovered over the last 5 years, there's an app on my phone. It's the Calm app.
Oh, yeah.
So it's 12 to 15 minutes of just meditation.
Yeah.
So if I get in a funk, because I could work myself up into quite a frenzy. And if I'm not moving, or if I'm not, doing something, and so what can happen is you can literally, your unrest just compounds the problem. So if you can be still, the still is the master of the unrest. And not that I'm some philosophical person, but what I do is I stop, I just stop, and I breathe, and I listen, and I find that it really is grounding for me to do that, and I do it every morning. Every morning I will stop, and I talk about what I'm thankful for, and what I'm excited about, and then I try to stop during the day to notice that it's a beautiful sunny day, or that the trees are turning, or whatever, because you can get so caught up in stuff that you don't even realize that you're just a whirling dervish. And I guess that comes, 15 years ago, there's no way I would have taken the time to do that.
Yeah.
I would have dismissed it as ridiculous. And now I'm like, I just need that balance.
That's awesome.
Yeah, particularly for my excitable personality, it's just, I just need to make sure that I am, if I go into a big meeting, or
calm,
just
centered.
Yep. So that's what I do. I just look to say, okay, and that Calm app, 10, 15 minutes a day, it's money.
That's
it
awesome.
Is money. and so it's just really helped me.
Very nice.
Me, when I'm trying to be quiet, is pacing the floor, making wifey nervous.
Or I'll go ride my, also, and I sold it. I got to get new it, but I've ridden dirt bikes for my whole life.
Oh, cool.
So my wife wishes that I wouldn't ride my dirt bike, but you've got these 60-year-old guys out there and we rip it. We're not, we still think we're 23, but what I love about that is I can't think about anything else. When we're up in the trails, I've got to think about that route, that trail. What are we doing here? That's going down. Where's Matt? Where's Steve? Where's and what I find is when we're done, that I've actually kind of didn't think about
cleared your head,
franchising. I didn't think about anything. I kind of thought about that. So the physical nature of that is exciting.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I'm the same way. To get inspired, I have to go do. Go make things, do something. And it seems counterintuitive in a way, because I'm not resting, but it's a rest on the mind, and I think that's probably the biggest challenge to overcome.
Yep.
Well, Harry, it's been an incredible episode sitting down with you and hearing more about your story and that of GoJoe Patrol. Phenomenal company. Also have to note, a lot of terminology gets thrown around on this show, but whirling dervish is up there.
It's up there.
Up there on the list, so I love it.
I'm telling you, the bar just got raised.
It's right.
All around.
Anyway, Harry, thanks for your time. Thanks for joining us
very
today.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks for putting on this podcast. It's neat to hear from other people in the community too. So
absolutely.